Hey everybody, Captain Dave Schneider, It's a Guide's Life, and I'm right here where I promised I'd be, getting ready to do a little vlog for you on how to vlog. Now this is actually a very extensive topic, and you can start very novice, very simple, and go all the way up into the really intricate details and tricks of the trade and all that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to start with, if you're a vlogger, these are the things that you need to pay attention to if you're starting tomorrow, and that's what we're going to do tonight. First of all, you've got to have a camera. There's a lot of different things you can use for vlogging. If you're actually out and about, moving around, you're probably going to want some sort of camera that's going to shoot perspective. You know, like a GoPro. You know, a GoPro is a perfect example of that. I've got a couple of different kinds of GoPros, and something along those lines. You can use a cell phone, just a plain old simple cell phone. I've got my cell phone here. It's actually in a DJI Osmo mobile apparatus, which is just a gimbal mount that gives you a 3-axis gimbal. But that's way beyond what you need. You can just use your cell phone. Just flat out hold your cell phone. If you're doing studio stuff, if you're shooting inside your room or something like that, you may want to be involved with like a DSLR. This is an example of one of my DSLRs. This is the one I've got right now that I've got sitting, and I'm looking at a monitor with it. I'm shooting simultaneously with this camera and another one that's identical to it that I'm talking to you on here. And I've got this one here I'm going to be using for cutaways. Rather than shooting the cutaways later, they're actually being filmed right now. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone here. I have lighting here. I've got a very basic 3-light headlight, 2 basic lights with a headlight that reflects up above the top and lights me up here. So you know, lighting's an issue. Number one, lighting. If you're shooting outside, make sure that you're shooting things so that the sun or the light source isn't behind you. Make sure it's looking into your face, or at least up overhead, so that you don't black everything out. Okay, so lighting is always going to be the number one thing. Number 2 thing you have to concern yourself with is audio. Now I'm going to talk about the cameras in a minute, but I want to talk about audio. You can have stuff that's out of focus a little bit here and there. You can have stuff that's maybe it's a little too dark, or it's a little too washed out here and there, and it's okay. But you cannot have cooked audio. You cannot have audio that makes people's speakers crackle. You cannot have audio that makes it just drives people crazy. If you shoot video, and I've actually done this, I've shot video and it's like, oh, it's so good, I just got a little burn in my audio. Burn means you hit that little red mark in your audio meter. If you hit that yellow to red mark, don't use it. For the most part, you can't fix that. And I mean, no matter, you go into, you know, I've got pretty fancy equipment, pretty fancy editing equipment, and you can't fix burnt audio. The best way to take care of audio is to have it shot with multiple sources and different levels. I mean, I've got audio recorders that actually will shoot simultaneously dual channel recordings, so that it shoots one at whatever you set it at, and then it'll automatically shoot like 12 decibels below that, so that in case you burn your audio, you still have audio. You know, just stuff like that. Again, way beyond what you probably need to worry about, but ultimately you have to make sure your audio is good, and you got to test your audio. That's the only way you're going to know. You got to get yourself set up. You got to test 1, test 2, test 3, and make sure your audio is good. I've shot whole things and found out that something wasn't plugged in. It's over. Can't use it. So audio will wreck your life or make your video. So keep that in mind. Keep the light right. Make sure the audio is hearable. Make sure it's usable. Make sure it's not going to make your listener or your watcher go, oh, and just shut you off. So lighting, audio, and now video. There's so much in the video world. We've got 4K, and we've got 1080p, and all these different things. What are the different frames? 1080p 30 frames, 1080p 60 frames. What does all of it mean? Well, let's jump into the frames real quick. I'm going to give you a quick idea about it. The frame rate is how many pictures are in the frame, or in a frame. How many pictures are in there during a fixed amount of time. So if you've got 30 frames per second, that's what it is. In 1 second, you're going to have 30 pictures. They're going to come together and make your motion picture. If you have 60 frames, if you shoot 1080p 60, it's now 60 frames in a second. That's twice as much. Well, what does that mean? What are you doing over there? I don't know what she... I had to get rid of the spider. Yeah, okay, she has a spider on the wall. Ooh, big emergency. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Now, So if you have 30 frames over 60 frames, well, 60 frames is better, especially if you're going to slow things down. Because if you slow something down and you've got fewer frames to slow it down with, your slow motion will be choppy. If you've got more frames, like 60 frames or even 120 frames, it's like butter, real smooth. These are things you should think about. Recommended settings for vlogging: 1080p, 60 frames a second is really your best choice if you have that available to you. It's a very high-end, high definition resolution, the 1080p, and then it's 60 frames a second. It's very fast. You get lots of pixels. You get lots of frames, and it's good video. All right, and that's a pretty standard in most of your GoPro, your Verb, all these other cameras. They shoot 1080p. And 30 frames, 60 frames, and some much faster than that. I've got some 240 frames. By the way, it's basically just slow motion. So what does that all mean? Well, get yourself something just as simple as you can get. All right, a GoPro. This is a GoPro. I've got it actually in a very fancy case here. This is a very fancy case. This is a metal skeleton case that you can get off of eBay. Here's another one that's in a metal skeleton case. These metal skeleton cases are like 25 bucks. They're very inexpensive. Well, why would you bother doing that? Why not just use the skeleton case that it comes with? I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, these things are heavy duty, all right? Number one. Number two, and this is more important than that, it has a filter. This is a UV filter. You take this filter off, it just comes right off. You take the UV filter off and you put a polarizing filter on. You put your polarizing filter on, it looks just like this one right here, This is a polarizing filter, and that is one of the ways you can make your video, especially during the sunlight, it just makes it pop. It makes it's like putting on sunglasses, and everything looks neater, everything looks cooler, the blues are bluer, you can see in the water, the glare is gone off everything. That's what a polarizing lens is. Here's another one with a polarizing lens on it. I shoot polarizing lenses 100% of the time until it gets dark, and I take them off. All right, but these polarizing lenses are paramount. This is a Hoya lens. I use the Hoya lenses. They're about $34, $35 a pop. This is a 52 millimeter, which is the size that this takes. And the other thing I like about these steel skeleton cases that you can get on Amazon, and this is for the Hero 6, they work the Hero 4, get the one you need, whatever camera you have. But it also has a hot shoe area here, which is basically what I've got this mounted to. It's not a hot shoe, it's a cold shoe, but it's a thing where you can put accessories like a light. In this case, I've got a nice Rode microphone here. This is a Rode mini microphone. These are fantastic. Look at the wind cancellation of this microphone. How do you hook it all up, Dave? Well, all right, simple enough. You take a few simple cords here. Let's use this one as an example. I got my GoPro, I got it set up, I'm shooting 1080p 60. I like the super wide for my chesty mount. This is a chesty here. Get a chesty, shoot with a chesty, for God's sakes. And I'm gonna use this mount, but I'm gonna attach audio. Guys, this cord right here that I'm taking off right here, this cord and this little microphone that I have on here, all right, were $16 altogether. 16 bucks. $16 for this microphone, $10 for the microphone, and about $7 for this cable. This particular cable is the one that has the C, a USB-C, which goes into the Hero 4 or Hero 5 and Hero 6 cameras, and it's just made specifically to plug into the side of the camera right here, and that's how you get your external audio. Just like that. Pop this on, just plug this in here like this. I stabilize it on a mount here, I wrap it around like this, and I'm on my chesty, and I'm shooting all day long right from here, and the only thing I have to do is change out my batteries. All right, well, what if you don't want to change out your batteries? I'm going to get you on that one too. I also use a pocket-sized battery, just like this. It slides into the back end of my chesty right here. I just slide it up under here like this, and then I take another plug. Now, this requires a different sort of plug. I take another plug that GoPro makes. Looks just like this. Come here, baby. All right. Anyway, it looks just like this. Now, these are not cheap. These things are about 50 bucks. I've heard a lot of people complain about, oh, they're bulky, they're big. Guys, this thing is perfect. It is heavy duty. One of the problems with the Hero 4s and the plugs that you plugged into them is it ruined the ports on the Hero 4s. I've had this problem on my own cameras. This port gets wore out because stuff is moving on the inside of it. This will eliminate that, especially the Compact C, USB-C. All right, so I'm going to unplug this one now because I need power and audio. So I'm going to plug it in here just like this, just in the side. And now my audio plugs in here. Okay. My audio is going to plug in right here. Just going to unplug this. And it plugs in just like that. Can you see that? My audio plugs in here. And now my power is going to plug in here. And then I'm going to plug it into a battery pack just like this. I'm going to wrap this whole thing together on my chesty just like this. And now I'm going to shoot all day long with no battery change, and the audio is going to be 100%. It's going to be rock solid. And this is going to give you beautiful video. This is my primary vlogging tool. This setup right here. Now, I also use a lot of other stuff. And I'm going to talk about one other thing about settings on your camera and how to record in just a minute. But this is the equipment. In fact, it looks like I'm recording right now. I don't know. But this is my primary equipment right here. I've got multiple GoPros. I'll set up. Usually I'll change the battery out on my chesty. I'll set something like this up in other places in the boat. This is a great microphone. Just plugs into the camera. You got your external audio. You got your GoPro stuff here. It's perfect. All right, now the last thing I want to talk to you about when it comes to the recording process and what have you is a record mode called looping. First of all, if you're going to use looping, let me explain what it is. When you record video, it's just going to record video. If you leave your camera on for 35 minutes, it's going to record for 35 minutes. How many of you have ever recorded a day's worth of fun and frolic and fooling around only to come home and see that you've got 2 hours and 20 minutes of video to look through again? It's overwhelming. And what happens is you do it initially and then you just don't follow through with it because it's just too much information. It's too laborious to try and get through it. So the solution to that is, if you're a vlogger, the solution is, and the idea behind looping is that you can run your camera all day and just save the pieces that are important to you throughout that day. That's what looping is. Now how it works is you set your looping up in intervals. Now it's going to be menus, menus, menus. You go into the menu under recording or under video, and one of the options you'll have like time-lapse options and different things like that. You're going to have a looping option. It's in every GoPro that I know of. And I'm sure it's probably a standard feature in the other GoPro-like cameras. What looping does is it starts to record. You set up your intervals, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. You set up an interval. What that basically means is you're going to decide how long the camera is going to go before it starts to record over itself. Okay, so for example, if I set it on 5 minute loop, that's what I use all the time. I use a 5 minute loop. When I get to 5 minutes, it's going to continue to record, but it's going to start recording over the very 5 minutes ago time slot. So anytime that I want to save something, let's say something I'm recording, let's say I'm loop recording for 35 minutes. There's just the last 5 minutes that's been recorded at this point. That's all that's been saved is the last 5 minutes. How I decide, let's say somebody catches a fish, and we go through that whole process, and I go, oh, that was awesome. Now, if I hit stop on the camera, if I hit the stop button on my camera at that point, stop record, it's going to save the last 5 minutes, and it'll create a file. And then you hit start again, and it starts recording in a loop again. And maybe 35 or 45 minutes later, something good happens, hit stop. It just saved the last 5 minutes that you recorded, and now you've got 2 5-minute files that you've saved. Make sense? What happens is, in post-production or in the editing, you basically have, let's say you have 8 or 9 files that you saved throughout the day. You basically have, at the end of those files that you saved is usually the information that you wanted to save. So it's really easy to get to your highlights, so to speak. The highlight feature in the GoPro doesn't do me any good because I don't use GoPro editing software. We'll talk about software later on if you're interested. I mean, the production software, production videos, there's lots of different things out there. So if you're interested in that later on, we'll cover it. But that's what looping is. Now, people have said, whoa, whoa, what if I want to, I'm going to lose something, I'm going to miss something. If you forget to stop, you're going to lose something. Absolutely correct. I've had fish catches I forgot to hit the stop button and start button again, and I wind up recording over it. So yes, you have to be cognizant of it. The other thing is, if you're going to record something like I'm doing a little FaceTime thing right here, or I'm decided I'm going to do an intro or an outro, A lot of times I have to make sure that I'm out of the loop mode and just in regular record mode, because I might take more than 5 minutes, and then I ramble on for 5 minutes and 34 seconds. I cut out the first 34 seconds of the whole deal. So there are times when you have to adjust and get out of that mode, but day in, day out, while you're vlogging, loop your recording. Loop, loop, loop. All right, guys. And so that's looping. I like to use my camera, my cell phone a lot, and I use it either handheld or I use it in my gimbal mount. And you can see as I move this thing, it's actually very cool beans. It will operate on, and let's see it down here. It will allow me to move the camera without any bounce, jiggle, and all those kinds of things. Gimbal mounts are not, they're a thing of the future. You're seeing them on all sorts of things. I've got Osmo cameras. This is an Osmo Mobile. I've also got the same cameras that go like on my drone. I've got some really high-end cameras I use that go on my drone that I also use on Osmo mounts that give me some spectacular 4/3 4K video as well. Guys, I am stacked to the nines when it comes to this equipment and all the different options. I like to shoot things different ways and use different media from time to time. But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be that GoPro that your mom and dad gave you for Christmas, or something along those lines. It can be a GoPro that you picked up at a garage sale, as long as it works. Make sure you got the right SD cards, and for God's sakes, film. Just take it with you and get stuff on film. Use looping. Looping will help you to be able to run your camera all day and then not have 3 hours of video to look at, because you won't do it. It's exhausting. You can't do it. Captain Dave Schneider, It's a Guide's Life. Guys, leave me questions here. I've used this as a springboard. I want to do more of this for you, and I'll show you anything you want, but leave me questions. I'm going to springboard from this into the next one. Will be based on questions and follow-ups. I hope this helps just a little bit. I hope it encourages some of you. When Rob and AP and those guys got with me, and even Scott's been really helpful, Scott Martin, when it comes to doing the vlogging and stuff, the #1 advice was do it. Take a camera and do it. It's Captain Dave Schneider. Guys, do me a favor, if you liked it, hit the like button. If you loved it, well, then share it with somebody. You know, you don't hurt your friends' feelings when you're sharing stuff. For God's sakes, hit the subscribe. Let's get this thing rolling. Captain Dave Schneider, we're building a fire. I'll see you tomorrow.